Welcome to CVR English. This is Naresh Kumar. Let's watch the world news. At the March for Life 2026 in Washington, President Donald Trump delivered a forceful address marking 53 years of the pro-life movement and connecting to it to America's 250th anniversary. He underscored his role in appointing a constitutionalist judges, accrediting those decisions with the movement's greatest victory. Trump framed abortion as a moral and spiritual struggle, stressing that the fight must be won not only through politics but also in the hearts and souls of Americans. He emphasized faith, religious liberty, family values, and protection of our unborn children, declaring that under his leadership, faith and God are being restored to public life, energizing supporters with a call to continue their mission.
Hello to everyone at the March for Life. For 53 years, students, families, patriots, and believers have come to Washington from every corner of the country to defend the infinite worth and God-given dignity of every human life. In 2026, as we celebrate 250 years since our founding fathers recognized the right to life in our Declaration of Independence, I want to thank every single one of you who was out on this winter day, a beautiful day, but it's winter nevertheless, to stand up for the unborn. 6 years ago, I was proud to be the first president in history to attend this march in person. Since then, we have made unprecedented strides to protect innocent life and support the institution of the family like never before. There's never been anything like it. In my first term, I was honored to appoint judges and justices who believed in interpreting the Constitution as written. That was a big deal. And because of that, the pro-life movement won the greatest victory in its history. Now the work to rebuild a culture that supports life continues in every state, every community, and every part of our beautiful land. This is a battle that must be fought, must be won, not only in the corridors of power, but above all in the hearts and souls of the people. That is why under the Trump administration, we're strongly defending religious liberty. We're bringing back faith in America. We're bringing back God. We have stopped forced taxpayer funding of abortion at home and abroad. We're championing faith-based adoption and foster care and supporting our parents by investing $1,000 in.
Japanese Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi announced the dissolution of the lower house of Parliament, calling for a snap election to secure public approval for her government's policy reforms. She stressed that trust from the people is essential for governance, outlining plans for active fiscal measures, a stronger national security, and the creation of a National Intelligence Bureau. The election set for February 8, 2026 follows the collapse of the LDP Komeito coalition and her new alliance with the Japan Innovation Party. Opposition leaders criticized the timing while polls indicated divided electorate. With winter storms and exam season coinciding, Takaichi urged citizens to participate through early voting to shape Japan's future direction.
まず高市内閣が掲げております、責任ある積極財政、そして、これから進めていきます安全保障政策の抜本的な強化、それから、国家情報局、などの設置も含めまして、政府のインテリジェンス、機能の強化といった重要な、政策転換がございます。こういったものも含めて、新たな、国づくりを進めてよいのかどうか、これはぜひ、国民の皆様に直接、問いたいと思っております。それから衆議院の現在の議席でございますが、前回の選挙で自民党と公明党の連立政権の下で、この決まったものでございます。で、この政権の枠組みも今、自民党と日本維新の会との連立に変わりました。で、自民党の政策も自公連立での前回選挙での政権公約と大きく変わりました。そういった意味では、新たな政権枠組みの下での重要な政策転換というものについては、 主に今年の国会でご審議をいただくものでございますので、その前に国民の皆様に直接正面から信を問うべきだと考えました。まさに信なくば立たずでございます。で政権枠組みの変更、その下での重要な政策転換というのは、これは総選挙によって信任をいただいた上で、ぜひ力強く進めたいと考えております。で、大雪の話が、ございました。で、現在、強い冬型の気圧配置が、続いて大雪となっている地域がございます。で、私から指示をいたしまして、大雪に関する関係閣僚会議を、開催した上で、官邸対策室を
At a joint press conference in Europe, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz shared a light-hearted moment when a reporter asked her if Meloni was becoming a Merz's primary partner in Europe. Replacing French President Emmanuel Macron, both leaders laughed off the question, with Meloni stressing that cooperation among Europe's major powers is essential and dismissing childish rivalries. The discussion centered on the EU-Morocco trade deal, which Italy supported after securing safeguards for its agricultural sector. Merz praised Italy's role but criticized the European Parliament's delay in implementation, calling it regrettable and amid global pressure. The landmark agreement, 25 years in the making, aims to remove 90% of tariffs with South American nations.
Frau Ministerpräsidentin, Herr Bundeskanzler, eine Frage an Sie beide. Sie haben sich
Signor Presidente, lei ha parlato appunto naturalmente degli accordi Mercosur. Per quanto riguarda il fatto di metterli in pratica, si è detto che non sempre tutto è democratico, quindi a questo punto verranno messe in pratica, entreranno in vigore? E quindi lei è la prima partner del cancelliere in Europa come sostituto, quasi per modo di dire, del presidente francese, benché ci siano a volte anche delle divergenze?
Vabbè, allora sul Mercosur, guardi, io rivendico il lavoro che l'Italia ha fatto per rendere l'accordo più equilibrato. Noi ritenevamo che l'accordo avesse, particolarmente verso alcuni settori, segnatamente verso il settore agricolo, degli squilibri. Abbiamo lavorato in maniera molto serrata con la Commissione, abbiamo portato a casa, grazie alla disponibilità della Commissione ma anche dei partner, alcune risposte molto importanti per tranquillizzare e difendere un asset fondamentale dell'economia europea che è per l'appunto l'agricoltura. A quel punto per noi l'accordo è diventato equilibrato e, come sapete, l'Italia ha dato il via libera per la sottoscrizione dell'accordo del Mercosur. Dopodiché c'è stato un intervento del Parlamento che avete visto, che potrebbe posticiparne l'entrata in vigore di almeno un anno e mezzo, fino a credo 2 anni, e quindi la Commissione sta valutando se farlo entrare in vigore temporaneamente, ma è una competenza che riguarda la Commissione. Quello che posso dire io è che oggi l'Italia considera l'accordo un accordo equilibrato e che aver garantito quell'equilibrio può consentire al Mercosur, al libero scambio con le nazioni del Mercosur, di dispiegare tutti i suoi effetti positivi. Dopodiché io non leggo mai, per quello che riguarda la seconda parte della domanda, e al di là degli scherzi, non leggo mai la politica in questo modo. Io credo che l'Italia in Europa rappresenti una nazione fondamentale. Credo che l'Italia oggi stia dimostrando sullo scacchiere internazionale e in Europa la sua stabilità, la sua forza, la sua concretezza, anche il suo coraggio nel porre le questioni che sono giuste per il futuro del continente, anche quando porle può sembrare.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer strongly criticized US President Donald Trump's recent remarks suggesting NATO troops stayed off the front lines during the Afghanistan war. Starner described the comments as insulting and deeply hurtful to families of soldiers who sacrificed their lives. Veterans across Europe also rejected Trump's claims, stressing NATO forces were actively engaged in combat. Official figures show 457 British soldiers were killed, alongside Canadian, French, and Danish troops, while the US lost about 2,460 service members. The remarks have further strained relations between the Washington and European allies, adding to tensions over NATO and Trump's controversial statements at the World Economic Forum in Davos, including his comments regarding Greenland.
Let me start by paying tribute to the 457 of our armed services who lost their lives in Afghanistan. I will never forget their courage, their bravery, and the sacrifice that they made for their country. There are many also who were injured, some with life-changing injuries. And so I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country. Well, I've made my position clear, and what I say to Diane is if I had misspoken in that way or said those words, I would certainly apologise, and I'd apologise to her. We have a very close relationship with the US, and that is important for our security, for our defence and our intelligence, and it's very important we maintain that relationship. But it is because of that relationship that we fought alongside the Americans for our values in Afghanistan. And it was in that context that people lost their lives or suffered terrible injuries, fighting for freedom, fighting with our allies for what we believe in.
Kyiv endured a devastating Russian assault early Saturday, with missiles and drones striking at least 4 districts. Explosions lit up the night sky as residents faced freezing temperatures of minus 13 degrees centigrade. The attack left 1 person dead and 4 injured, 3 of whom required hospitalization. A medical facility and several residential buildings sustained damage, forcing civilians to cope with destruction amid harsh winter conditions. The strike came just days after trilateral talks in the UAE involving Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, underscoring the persistent dangers confronting the Ukrainian capital despite ongoing diplomatic efforts. The incident highlights the fragile security situation and the urgent need for meaningful progress toward peace. Iraq has reinforced its border with Syria following violent clashes in northeastern Syria that reportedly enabled ISIS prisoners to escape. A convoys of military vehicles and armored units were deployed near Mosul, with the commanders stressing Iraq's readiness for of any emergency. Officials highlighted that the border is secured with concrete walls, barbed wire fencing, thermal cameras, and continuous patrols. The move comes after Syria's transitional government forces clash with the Syrian Democratic Forces, leading to the escape of about 120 detainees, though many were later recaptured. Baghdad has warned that detention centers holding ISIS fighters pose a global security threat, not just a regional one, as tensions continue to escalate across the Syrian conflict zone.
انه نوصل رساله للشعب العراقي انه حدودنا مأمنه بالكامل، انه هسه جاي نسمع اخبار انه الحدود غير امنه، والحدود والسجناء بالجانب السوري وكذا. الحمد لله والشكر حدودنا مأمنه على مستوى الموصل، على مستوى العراق حدودنا مأمنه، لكن بالاخص الموصل حدودنا مضبوطه. عندنا الجدار الكونكريتي، عندنا السيم الشائك ايضا، وعندنا منظومات الكاميرات الحراريه، وعندنا اسلحتنا واجهزتنا واعتدتنا كامل ما عايزنا.
حاليا من ارض الموصل، من اراضي سنجار. الحمد لله والشكر. نحب نطمن شعبنا العراقي بصوره عامه، نحب نطمن شعبنا العراقي. شبر ما حد يقدر ياخذ.
الحدود مؤمنه بالكامل، منظومات كاميرات.
New York City Mayor Johan Mamdani assured residents that the city is fully prepared as a powerful winter storm approaches, expected to bring one of the heaviest snowfalls in years. At a storm preparedness briefing, he highlighted frigid temperatures, strong winds, and snowfall exceeding a foot. Thousands of sanitation trucks and agency vehicles will be mobilized, forming the nation's largest snow fighting operation. Over 2,000 workers will operate in 12-hour shifts with 700 salt spreaders and 2,200 snow plows ready to clear roads. A code blue has been enacted to protect vulnerable populations. Mamdani urged residents to avoid unnecessary travel, prepare early, and stay indoors as schools await a decision on remote or in-person classes.
This weekend is going to be cold, it is going to be windy, and above all else, it is going to be a weekend where your city is prepared. And the forecasts don't always get it right, but what is being predicted right now, whether it's a foot of snow or even a little bit more, would be one of the biggest snowfalls that our city has seen in years. Tomorrow, as the storm nears, we're going to see thousands of DSNY collection trucks and agency partners transformed into the nation's largest snow fighting operation. This is an operation that I trust with every ounce of my being in being the ones that will deliver us the exact kind of city response we need to see this weekend. We are going to see more than 2,000 of those sanitation workers begin 12-hour shifts starting tomorrow evening. They will salt as soon as we see the first snowflakes hit the ground with 700 salt spreaders. And then as soon as we see 2 inches of snow accumulate, we're going to see 2,200 plows activate across the city. That, by the way, is likely to occur Sunday morning. While we are still waiting to make a final decision on whether school will be in person or virtual, we will communicate that decision to families by noon on Sunday. That is going to be a decision between in-person learning and remote learning. I have to apologize to the students that were hoping for a different answer. For a traditional snow day, that will not be the case.
And then also, my friend YC, we're putting out a lot of messages. We know they've been able to.
We have enacted a code blue now in effect, which has been in effect since last night. This means that homeless services outreach workers have been and will continue to canvass the 5 boroughs so that we are connecting homeless New Yorkers with shelter and bringing them out of the cold. DHS is going to be bypassing the intake operation procedures just to ensure that we are getting people into these shelters as quickly as possible.
Working through that and making sure those systems are ready to respond.
So you should be done, but thank you all for everything that you are doing, because it's the bulk of why we're. And finally, I want to encourage New Yorkers to do their parts to stay safe this weekend. That is why we are issuing a hazardous travel advisory for Sunday and for Monday. So if you need groceries, if you need a new winter coat, if you need anything, frankly, that you are thinking about for this weekend, today is the day to make that trip. Because once the snow begins to fall, I want to encourage New Yorkers to do something that we don't often have the luxury of doing, which is to take a breath and stay home.
Thank you, Mayor. And the MTA will be operational this weekend. Obviously, we have detailed plans in place for storms like this to protect the network, to protect our riders, and to protect our employees. We pre-position a ton of equipment and personnel.
Ecuador has announced a 30% security tax on Colombian goods beginning February 1st, citing rises cost linked to the border violence and drug trafficking. Foreign Minister Gabriela Sommerfeld clarified that the measure is not a tariff but a charge to offset human and financial burdens. President Daniel Noboa and Sommerfeld emphasized dialogue with Colombia, the tensions remain high. The move raises concerns over trade disruptions, travel complications, and strained bilateral relations. While Ecuador insists the tax is necessary for national security, critics warn it could escalate economic friction and diplomatic challenges between the two neighboring countries.
Hay una solicitud de cita. Ese día el Ecuador, del día domingo 25, ha solicitado Colombia, pero ese día el Ecuador está recibiendo en los salones de Cancillería una misión de seguridad de un país cooperante importante que ya son agendas que se tienen establecidas con los diferentes ministros y no se puede recibir el 25. Sin embargo, el Ecuador ha hecho una contrapropuesta de fechas para la siguiente semana para poder mantener diálogos, pero insistir en la posición del Ecuador sobre este tema tan importante. El diálogo siempre es parte importante de los procesos, sobre todo a nivel internacional, que lleva el Ecuador adelante. En el caso de Colombia ha habido un vasto diálogo en materia de seguridad, sobre todo en la protección de fronteras, entendiendo que el Ecuador no es un país productor de toda la droga que transita por nuestras carreteras y nuestros puertos, y entendiendo que desde la frontera norte es por donde permea toda la producción de este estupefaciente en Colombia hacia el Ecuador. Lo que el Ecuador, a través de las varias conversaciones que se ha tenido a todo nivel, incluso presidencial, es que haya mayor presencia y control del Estado colombiano en la frontera con Ecuador.
UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan welcomed delegations from Russia, the United States, and Ukraine for a high-level trilateral meeting. The U.S. led to two-day talks following Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's announcement at the World Economic Forum in Davos, aimed at exploring a potential peace framework. Discussions centered on territorial disputes, security challenges, and ways to ease tensions in the ongoing conflict. Delegates emphasized dialogue and diplomacy as essential tools for progress, highlighting the importance of cooperation among global powers. The meeting reflects renewed international efforts to seek stability and reduce hostilities through constructive engagement.
And my team will meet American team, and I think that it will be the first trilateral meeting in Emirates. It will be tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Yes, it will be 2 days meetings in Emirates. I hope that Emirates know about it. Yes, sometimes we have such surprises from American side. Yeah. But in any way, they will go there, and I think this is good. If on the technical level we'll begin this trilateral meeting, I hope that we will find some. I don't know. Russians have to be ready for compromises, because everybody have to be ready, not only Ukraine, and this is important for us. So we will see what result will be, but that Russians will meet, that our guys meet today with Americans, then Americans will meet with Russians tomorrow. Today is at night. I don't know when. I don't know. Maybe Putin is sleeping. You said that nobody knows what is in his head. Yes, but
they might have to wait a little bit for the meeting.
I don't know, but tomorrow and the day after tomorrow we will have trilateral. Our guys will have trilateral meetings.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky provided a briefing on trilateral talks in the UAE involving delegations from Ukraine, the United States and Russia. He emphasized that discussions centered on parameters for ending the war, insisting Russia must show genuine willingness to halt the conflict it initiated. Zelensky described the meeting as significant, noting it was the first in such a format after a long gap. He remarked that the ball is now in Russia's court as negotiations continue. The talks reflect renewed diplomatic efforts to explore peace, with Ukraine reaffirming its firm position and security demands.
Українці. Сьогодні багато завдань, в тому числі у нашої дипломатичної команди. Майже щогодини доповідають мені українські представники. Вони зараз знаходяться в Еміратах. Там сьогодні українська, американська та російська делегації. Була вже розмова важлива, бо давно не було таких тристоронніх форматів зустрічі. Говорять про параметри закінчення війни. Зараз у них має бути принаймні частина відповідей від Росії. Головне, щоб Росія була готова завершити цю війну, яку сама ж почала. Українські позиції чіткі. Рамки для діалогу я визначив. Для нашої делегації постійно делегація на зв'язку. Рустем Умєров, Кирило Буданов, Давид Арахамія, Сергій Кислиця. Завтра до перемовин ще приєднаються генерал Гнатов, начальник Генерального штабу та представник ГУР Скібіцький. По змісту перемовин сьогодні ще поки що зарано робити висновки. Ми подивимось, як розмова піде завтра і які будуть результати. Треба, щоб не тільки українське бажання було закінчити цю війну, досягти
That's the wrap up of the world news. Keep watching CVR English News.